Testing and contact tracing could be the way out of the lockdown and the coronavirus crisis. Allow us to contain the disease and to get back to normal. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Now, in the 1940s, contact tracing was put forward as the answer to the serious problem of the spread of syphilis. Well, one of the ways of stopping it in wartime conditions would actually have been for men and women to avoid the booby trap of the attractive allure. Posters warned people that she may look clean, but and that it wasn't only pickups and prostitutes, but also good time girls who spread syphilis and gonorrhoea, and they were often innocent and sweet looking. But it was a serious problem in the Second World War, and something needed to be done to stop the spread of the spirochete. The idea was not only to get rid of the public health danger, but also to ensure that national efficiency was maintained in wartime. In November 1943, a new regulation was added to the 1939 Defence of the Realm Act, popularly known, almost affectionately known, as in the Great War, as Storia. And this new regulation would have allowed the compulsory tracing of contacts and treatment of anyone found to be infected with syphilis. Syphilis was the enemy, and Phyllis, the syphilis-sparing vamp of the anti-venereal poster campaigns, had now come under the surveillance of Dora. The wartime regulations that restricted the freedom of the individual for the sake of national defence, for the national good. Regulation 33B, under the Defence Regulation Act, laid down that any doctors treating any patient with syphilis or gonorrhoea must notify the medical officer of health for the county or county borough, together with details of any sexual contacts from whom the sufferer might have contracted the disease, or to whom it might have been passed. If the patient refused to reveal names and addresses of sexual contacts, and indeed if he or she refused to have treatment on a voluntary basis, the medical officer of health could enforce compulsory treatment if he had received more than one or two notifications about any one individual. Now, in theory, the general basis of treatment remained voluntary, confidential and free. This was in keeping with the special clinics, special VD clinics that had been established on a national basis, free of charge and completely confidential in 1917. However, there was now an element of compulsion, although this only came in once persuasion had failed to achieve any results. Treatment itself remained voluntary, confidential, and free. But it was a new departure that many doctors deplored. But the regulation was declared to be of national importance, and that it was to bring under medical care those infected persons who have shown themselves unresponsive to education, work, or to methods of treatment, and who, owing to this refusal to undertake treatment, remain a constant source of danger to the health of the community and a drain on the manpower and woman power of the nation in its war effort. There was nothing new about the idea of a compulsory system of notification and treatment. It had been widely advocated before the war. However, for many people, compulsion was now seen as an unacceptable infringement of individual liberty. Notification was seen as a threat to the anonymity upon which the existing system of clinics was based. Doctors didn't want to breach professional confidentiality, and many of them thought it was more effective to have a voluntary system where treatment could be sought at an early stage by the patient, and the case could then be followed up much more easily. Any compulsory system of notification might actually deter people from seeking treatment until it was unavoidable. In a similar way, servicemen who had deductions made from their pay if they reported sick with a venereal infection, seen as a self-inflicted wound, well, they often covered up their disease or resorted to private medical practitioners where confidentiality could be more easily guaranteed, and also to quacks. Now, many peacetime clinics had actually appointed social workers to investigate the home conditions of their patients, and these social workers, to a limited extent, had practiced contact tracing. In 1925, a successful experiment in the port of Rotterdam had actually suggested the feasibility of the extension of the system of tracing contacts. This was to be the basis of a new programme of contact tracing, which was introduced by John Charles, Medical Officer of Health, for Northumberland, County Durham, and the county boroughs of Newcastle upon Tyne and Gateshead. All patients presenting themselves at a clinic in this wide area, encompassed by the Newcastle upon Tyne Venereal Diseases Clinic, all of them would be questioned in depth about their recent sexual partners, their names, their addresses, physical descriptions, workplaces, and favourite haunts such as pubs, clubs, and cafes. The patient would then be given a contact slip with details of the clinic to give to their sexual partners, in the hope that they could encourage them to attend for treatment. Then, if the contact did not attend within a certain time, social workers or health visitors would follow up. They would telephone them, visit their homes, visit their places of work, and even their leisure haunts. This Tyneside System not only ensured that anyone likely to be infected was made aware of the available treatment facilities, but that they should actively encourage their contacts to agree to treatment. What Regulation 33B of DORA did was to make these methods compulsory. In 1944, throughout the United Kingdom, 8,339 contacts were notified. However, it was only possible to trace 3,696 of them. And even fewer, a mere 2,858, could actually be persuaded to accept treatment. In 1944, 82 people who refused treatment were prosecuted, and 827 were forced to have treatment after two or more of their sexual partners had named them as contacts. Now, there had been quite a furore in the First World War when Regulation 40D of DORA had seemingly stigmatized women and had made it an offence for them to infect with a sexually transmittable disease a member of His Majesty's forces. It was seen as an anti-woman measure. Regulation 33B in 1943 avoided this. It applied equally to both sexes. However, women were still more likely to be pursued under it. Even with the end of the war, this regulation remained in force until 1947. And the machinery for contact tracing remained in place. However, confidentiality and persuasion, rather than the ultimate sanction of compulsion as the cornerstone, remained important. The American military authorities were frustrated by this emphasis on confidentiality in the British approach. But there were real issues at stake. Do individual rights come before the national good? Is the individual less important than the mass? These are questions we all have to ask.